Anyway, as everyone knows, we're here tonight to listen to a couple of presentations from Hugo Gagioni, and very happy to have Hugo here. He's going to start tonight talking about IP Live. Hugo is the Chief Technology Officer and Vice President of Technology of Sony Professional Solutions of America, division of Sony Electronics Inc. Hugo joined Sony in 1988. He holds several patents and has authored over more than 40 technical publications in the areas of video compression, digital filter banks, HDTV, and UHD TV devices and systems. Previously to joining Sony, Hugo worked at RCA Corporation and Bell Communications Research. With research interests ranging from digital video and image processing and information theory to video, audio compression, and multi-dimensional signal processing, Hugo has served as a session chairman of 14 international conferences in the areas of HDTV and bandwidth compression systems. He has also given numerous presentations and tutorial courses on signal processing and advanced video technologies at international events sponsored by SMPTE ST and the Eurocip organizations. He's been a member of the Advanced Television Advisory Group to the FCC from 1987 to 1994. He is a fellow of SMPTE and the recipient of the 2004 Leach Gold Medal Award for Technology Leadership. In 2008, he received the U.S. Broadcasting and Cable Technology Leadership Award. Hugo was the chairman of the SMPTE technical groups on digital representation of the 1125/60 high-definition TV standard and the digital HDTV serial interfaces. He's also chaired the SMPTE group on editing of MPEG bit streams for TV studio usage. Hugo represented Sony Corporation of America to the ANSI X3L3 committee and the ISO IEC MPEG encoding group from 1988 to 1996. Hugo holds degrees in telecommunications, systems engineering, and electronic engineering from the University of Essex in Colchester, England, the University of Pennsylvania, and the Columbia University, respectively. Please welcome Hugo.
Thank you. Okay, good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. And I have a lot of slides in these two presentations. Then what I would like to do is go first on this first topic, which relates to IP networking for studio applications. Then we're going to have a bathroom break. And then when we come back, we have another presentation for Paul Briscoe on the development of what's happening at IBC. And then right after that, I'll cover the topic of high dynamic range, which is getting a lot of publicity lately. All right, let me begin with the topic of IP networking for studio and outside broadcasting applications. Okay, as you probably know, Sony back in the early 90s, we developed the technology for SDI, serial digital interfaces. And the SDI was very rapidly adopted by all manufacturers and the broadcast industry at large, and evolved to HD serial interfaces, 3 gigabit interfaces, and now some organizations are proposing even higher data rate in SDI. But we believe that the end is coming to the world of serial digital interfaces as we move into a higher resolution imaging systems, such as 4K or 8K. And then the technology has advanced, and I hope to be able to show it to you, to the point where we can now use commodity IP technology, IP switches, to mimic precisely all of the operation benefits that we have enjoyed for so many years on SDI. Currently, one of the key initiatives that has prompted Sony to invest heavily on the development of IP interfaces for audio video has been the fact that the broadcasting industry has been facing a dual investment cycles both on the area of productions and file-based structure, and simultaneously they have to invest on live productions. And each one of these sectors has different set of properties and characteristics. For example, in the world of file-based infrastructure, latencies are not an issue. Most of the people use conventional commercial off-the-shelf switches. Best effort is the technique. You don't have to have real-time communication over IP file structure. And it has the benefit of high expandability. Systems can grow very quickly by using the benefit of the IT industry. Now, on the other hand, they have the opposite situation, which is the live environment. In live environment, everything has to be absolutely synchronous, as little latency as possible. It has its point-to-point communication, and you need very sophisticated, specialized SDI routing formats and constant latency. Therefore, these are completely different characteristics for transmission of audio-video information. One that requires real-time communication, the other one doesn't. But it requires double investment. Then, wouldn't it be nice to have a single way to do both? And this is what the industry is now asking to manufacturers to face, to try to use the benefits of the investment that the IT industry is bringing, using commodity off-the-shelf switches and IP commodity technology. Then Sony, there are many ways of doing this, and the topic of IP transmission of audio video is a very hot one. It's a very heated one in terms of standardization. But Sony decided to approach the introduction of IP by trying to use non-specialized IP switching fabrics, things that you can buy off the shelf and make use of the economies of scale of the data industry. But we need to do something special to that IP packaging so that it behaves as if we were sending synchronized low latency audio video streams. It's one of the benefits, as you can read here, is completely agnostic, it's very flexible, it's not format dependent. You can do 4K, HD, high frame rate, 8K, and also you can combine both data transmission as well as audio video transmission simultaneously in the same infrastructure. The fact that we, at least as one manufacturer, we are adopting IP in all of our product allows us to share resources. As long as the network reaches a destination, we can share resources from a stadium, from a remote location, from a regional broadcasting station. Also, IP allows us to have some new services that we didn't have before. For example, device management and remote monitoring. And these are things that we had to have in the past, secondary or multiple networks in addition to our SDI network to be able to do this. Now everything is one single network. We've been doing IP research for quite a while, but our first product was this little box that you see there, the NXL IP55. We introduced this about 4 years ago. It was point-to-point over gigabit cabling, and allows us for the transmission of 4 high-definition signals. 3 in one direction, 1 in the opposite direction, as well as 10 channels of audio and control. That was our first experimentation, and we're still selling it, and it's very useful for business and industrial application, colleges, and so on. But we knew that we had to go beyond point-to-point, and then we invested heavily on the development of an integrated circuit that I'm going to show you later, that also exists in the form of FPGAs and software, that we are now introducing in all of our Sony products, professional products, switchers, servers, studio cameras, the entire family of HD as well as future 4K and 8K devices will have the option of having IP interconnection. We are, I'm happy for the last 8 years, heavily participating in standard settings. We are active members of SMPTE, EBU, the VSF, in order to try to get some agreement on how we do this IP encapsulation. And some progress has been made, and I'll comment about that later. We are also, because we don't have the capability to do everything by ourselves, we are partnering with a good number of other manufacturers that I'll speak about later, that allows us to create a complete ecosystem based on an IP interconnections, including multi-viewers, graphics, and other IT-based companies. All right, but then you may say, what is all this fuss about IP? I mean, we know IP, we've been sending files all along in the audio-video world. True, but there was an element that was not accomplished, which was the absolute reproduction of the operational capabilities of SDI. For example, a real-time operation with minimum latency, synchronous processing, absolute clean video switching on frame boundaries. These were not achievable until by now. The technology has evolved, and I'm going to go through some of them. And also very important, although different manufacturers have different ways of doing this, we opted to use the precision time protocol. It's a new time distribution protocol that allows us to do gen locking of the devices in network without having to have out-of-network gen locking. This technology came from the original time synchronization protocol developed by the IEEE. It's called the IEEE 1588 Precision Time Protocol, but it had to be adapted to broadcasting applications. And SMPTE, through an extensive process of discussions and meetings and, well, sometimes fights, we came up with the NAB of this year. There was announced the introduction of the new standard. It's called 2059. It's an audio-video signal synchronization using PTP protocol. And it's made up of two parts. The first part defines a very unique something called SMPTE epoch that defines the beginning of time. And all of the mathematical equations and everything to relate to that initial moment where we're going to reset the world, and that is the midnight of 1970, December, crossing to 1971. That is, if we were to synchronize a video signal, a video waveform at a specific moment in time, with that moment at midnight, because of the periodicity of the video signal, you will be able to replicate that video waveform anytime into the future. So it's a very unique property of that SMPTE epoch. Also, how to utilize the PTP, the Precision Time Protocol, to gen-lock devices on the network. That's also specified in the second part of the 2059 standard. Then the methodology is basically, you now, instead of having a time code generator or a black box generator, you have a PTP grandmaster, a Precision Time Protocol grandmaster, which sends time messages. The important function now is to send time in a very, very robust way. Then the audio video information that different devices produce is now encapsulated, it's compressed or uncompressed, and is sent as data. But what is important is the PTP messages. Then that data goes through an IP environment. I'm illustrating that as a LAN, that can be anything. And then that IP data is reconstructed in the PTP slave. You have the grandmaster and you have the PTP slaves. And the slaves use that time information to reconstruct what we know as a conventional video synchronization signal. These PTP masters grandmasters can be free running. You can actually lock them to a GPS signal. It can be gen-locked to existing time generator for the broadcasting plan. All right. Then one of the questions that we were thinking about, how can we, is it possible to use this IP technology to replicate all of the operations that we have in television? Well, the main thing that we need to try to mimic or try to see if we can replace is an SDI router. And then this slide illustrates genetically three different planes of the SDI router. We have the media plane, which is the connection of the audio-video signal from the devices to the router. Then we have the timing plane, okay, the time code. And then we also have the control planes. And these are in generic terms, the three characteristics of a live production system. Now the question is, how can we apply these three planes, or is it possible to apply these three planes to an IP-based live production system? Well, let's give it a shot. Well, the first thing I need to do is convert the signal from my devices to IP. Therefore, I need a converter, an SDI to IP converter that usually is embedded in the devices or can be a gateway external to the device. And then we replace the router, let's say, with an IP switching fabric. Hopefully, it's a commercial, not a specialized switching fabric. The timing is going to be my BTP grandmaster. That's going to send time messages through my IP fabric to all of the devices. The control surface is the easiest way. It's the easiest part of the whole thing because we can use anybody's or any manufacturer's control surface. Just sending control messages that an intelligence that is surrounding the system has to process. Therefore, it appears that there is a possibility that we can replicate all of the functions that we do for a living in broadcasting using an IP-based audio-video router. But there are certain technologies that have to be developed. Okay? Then, from Sony perspective, we have developed a number of technologies that I'm going to explain some of them tonight. We need to be able to combine both streams of audio-video as well as conventional data, all navigating through the same pipelines, which are IP pipelines. Okay? We need quality of service. We have to be able to reserve sufficient bandwidth so that we don't impede the real-time operation of audio-video on IP fabrics. Control, metadata, everything that we use in video and broadcasting has to go through the same pipes. We will use, or the manufacturers may not, but Sony uses SMPTE 2059 to general devices in network. Because currently, commercially, and it's the easiest in terms of cost, availability, the switching fabrics that we have and are about 10 gigabit per second. These are commercially available, very easy to obtain. 40 gigabit will be appearing in the market, 100 gigabits. But 10 gigabit is feasible, it's commercially flexible, we can get them anywhere. But the problem with 10 gigabit is that we cannot put 4K. 4K, if you think 4K is 60p, 4 to 2 10 bits, it's going to cost you 12 gigabits per second. Therefore, you need compression. Then we have adopted an algorithm that I will not talk about it because otherwise we're going to be here for a long time, but it's called the low latency video coding. It's extremely fast algorithm. It has very low latency and extreme levels of picture quality that allows us to do a very mild compression of HD as well as 4K so that it can fit to a 10 gigabit infrastructure. And it's now also SMPTE standard, is the RDD34, not to talk about later. We need to have also another technology, network redundancy. You know, if something's going to fail, is some IT devices. Therefore, we need to protect very, very carefully the transmission of audio-video IP streams using redundancy. And we use, I'll go into more detail later, the 2022-7. And we have developed a live system manager that allows to control the entire network. Devices, QoS, access control, and network resources and architecture. All right, I have to say yes, one of the key initiatives or motivation, that's the word I was looking for, motivation for Sony to invest heavily on IP was the fact that to do 4K live production is very, very painful. We, as you know, currently using 3 gigabit per second coaxial cables, or SDI links. We need 4 links to support 4K at 60p, 4 to 2. All right? And I'm going to show you some of the trucks that we have designed and built around this. For every 4K signal has to have 4K. Therefore, it's not you don't have to be a genius, it's going to be a lot of cables, and we don't want that. Then we wanted to move to a single fiber, single connection, single cable connection. And we were using at one time, and we're still using RJ45 connectors on gigabit cabling as well as 10 gigabit cabling. But the format that we are going to adopt, and many other manufacturers, is a connector called SFP Plus that allows us to connect to optical cable. I'll talk about in a minute. Here we are. This is the connector, a small form factor pluggable plus connector. It allows us to have multi-mode fiber as well as single mode fiber. For short range is about 300 meters. And long range, we can do up to 10 kilometers. This connector also can be found in a very small cable called Twinax, and these are used for wiring inside the trucks. And a number of manufacturers make those cables in small distances, and you can see there from 1 meter to about 10 meters. An example of the important reduction in weight and cabling. This is a truck that we built for the World Cup, and we had 8 4K live cameras. We have 5 switchers, 5 servers, 4K servers. We have a 4K switcher, and all of this cabling inside this truck amounted to about 362 pieces of BNC cable with a weight of about 270 kilograms approximately. If we were to change them using 10 gigabit fiber, we would use basically 88 pieces and a reduction in weight of about 85% of the truck. Therefore, the current trucks that we're building in Japan and also for other customers in the US and in Latin America are using this technology in order to make big trucks much lighter. This is the network LSI. This is the second generation. The first one was with the point-to-point. This is a very special chip that exists also. We have given this information to other manufacturers for them to build FPGAs as well as we have them in software. But they support 4 HD SDI streams, or we can support 2 1080-60Ps, or we can support 1 4K. Inside this device, we have a number of processes. The first thing to do is to do SDI to IP mapping that I'll talk about later. We have a codec, the low latency video codec, that can be bypassed. Therefore, we can do uncompressed HD. HD is okay. But we can put 4Ks, 4 HD uncompressed signals to the device. We have forward error correction because, although some people say, well, I don't have errors in my broadcasting plant. Well, this is not to be used only in very beautiful environments in broadcasting. It's going to be trucks, it's going to be nasty places. Therefore, we need to have ways of correcting packet errors in transmission. We have the network engine that allows us to packetize the IP, the data into real-time protocols, user datagram protocols, and eventually the IP header that will go into the Ethernet cabling. And the network synchronization is responsible for the PTP, the actual gen-locking of the time messages. It has also a little bit of buffering to synchronize packets, and is the engine responsible for clean video switching, that I'm going to explain in details in a minute. Therefore, a single device is capable of doing all these functions. These are more information. As I said, I can put 4 4Ks over 1 gigabit. I can put 2 1080-60Ps on a single gigabit. I can put 1 4K, probably 2 4Ks if I parallel the devices on a single 10 gigabit Ethernet. The compression ratio is extremely mild. It's around 3-to-1 compression in order to achieve less than 16 lines of latency. This is extremely fast encoding and decoding operation, and it's visually lossless. I don't want to risk to say it's mathematically lossless, but it's approaching mathematically lossless performance. Then the first phase of product, you see there, we are concentrating on transmission of 4 to 2. And we can do up to 60p 10 bits 4K. When I say 4K, it can be 3840 or can be 4096. And the second phase that will begin sometime next year is to support 444 for cinematographic applications, and the devices can support up to 12-bit. But that's a different type of application. There you see 4K only goes up to 30p, which is good enough for cinematographic applications. All right. Then the other intelligence, the other big development for us was the creation of this network system manager. We call it LSM, Live System Manager. And it's the intelligence that manages the cross point switching fabric of this IP switching fabric. It can be a Cisco router, a Hewlett-Packard, a Juniper router, any commercially available IP router. Also controls the topology and the network resources, the availability of the different resources, protects them, and also serves as the control access. Not everybody can access all of the devices. That intelligence is controlled by the LSM. Also, primarily, very important, establishes the quality of service by parsing out, by maintaining very strict rules of bandwidth allocation, a priority to control, to PTP timing, and for the audio-video sessions. Therefore, there are data that doesn't have to have real-time operation. They will be communicated using best effort application. The data will get there when it gets there. But other data has to be absolutely precisely transmitted in real time. Also, we have a policy on the IP network so that we have access control as well as priority-based control. And this is all managed by the LSM. LSM allows also for automatic recognition of devices. There are a number of IP addresses that are sent from the DHCP server to the devices, and then the devices discover themselves to the LSM intelligence. Therefore, as soon as you plug the device into the network, it appears in the GUI of your screen, and with the different priorities and the ownership of visibility and use. The device configurations can change. We can also program different behaviors of the devices depending on the type of program that you may be running. You may be running a magazine production, or a soap opera, or a newscast. Then, depending on the behavior that you want the device to perform at any given point, it can be automatically controlled and set remotely from the LSM. All right, then this is the key element. This is because no one has been able to demonstrate it, at least publicly, frame accurate, very clean video switching using commercial off-the-shelf switches. Okay. In order to talk to IP switches, commercial off-the-shelf, we have to use something called the IGMP, the Internet Group Management Protocol. That's the language. You send messages to that switching fabric, take that node and send the string to another port. And that behavior is done through the IGMP language. But the problem with commercial switches is that they don't understand video. They only handle data. They have no idea about when the frame interval happens. Therefore, if you send a switching signal, switch from a string A to a string B, this may land in the middle of the video, and then you see a turning of the image. Therefore, I'll give an example. An HD frame is about 4,500 IP packets, and I have no idea whether I'm going to switch a packet that is in the middle of the screen or it's in the beginning of the next frame. That's a problem. Therefore, we have to have a technique to be able to achieve frame-accurate, clean video switching. And there are three ways of doing this. You can do either source time switching. I'm going to show you how, or what it means. Or you can do switch-based switching. Or the way that Sony has adopted is destination time switching. Each one has pluses, minuses in terms of commercial availability, or some have not even been developed yet. In order for us, our first step to implement this and to use COTS switches, we decided to utilize destination-based switching. It has a penalty that I mentioned in a minute, but we have compensated that in the design of our product. The source time switching, meaning the switching takes place before it gets into the switch, implies that you have to have very precise synchronization of the IP stream before it gets to the switch. And that is a major problem, major challenge. Also, it limits severely the scalability of the switch of the system. The other technique, which is switch-based switching, if you use commercial switches, it's very, very, very hard because you have to get into the language of the switch. You have to go into open flow, and then it's very, very nasty. And a number of manufacturers are now trying to do commercial off-the-shelf switches switching. And we haven't seen them publicly released. And they also will have to be very specialized switches. These are not off-the-shelf switches. Therefore, if you remove the intelligence of the switch and you make them non-commercially available, then yes, it's possible to do switching in that way. But I'm just referring to what is commercially available. All right, these are the techniques, the 4 steps that we designed to do clean video switching. We have, first of all, frame information insertion, rough switching, clean video switching, and then synchronization. Let me go one step at a time. Then we have 2 chips, one in camera A, another one in the camera B, and I have now my switching or my receiving device. I'm going to say switch from camera A to camera B. The first thing to do is I have to get my strings from the synchronous zone of the SDI world. I have to convert them into IP. And those chips will actually make sure that each one of those IP packets have frame identification information. Every IP packet of that string knows what frame it belongs to. All right, then the other thing, now we're going to do a rough video switching. Therefore, the receiving device, maybe the video switcher operator is going to switch from camera A to camera B, will issue a command to the video switcher, to the IP fabric, switch camera A to camera B. But when it sends that signal to the IP fabric, that's an IGMP command. And you don't know where that IGMP command is going to land. Because that IGMP is basically telling the switch, leave this camera, join the other camera. Leave this stream, join the other extreme. All right. When we talk about this stream, we call it multicast group. Then, because the uncertainty of where the signal lands in the switch, we're going to have an overlap of the 2 streams. Therefore, the receiving LSI has the intelligence and it has the knowledge of where that switching takes place in the framing, in the vertical blanking, in the vertical interval, and it will discard preceding and subsequent packets around the switching moment. And this is the intelligence of the receiving LSI. Right? And it will be responsible to create the clean video switching between stream A and the stream B. Then here you have an animation, basically one in the IP network, basically is receiving 2 signals from 2 different transmitters, and the receiver side basically receives these 2 streams and switch between them cleanly. It could be HD, it could be 4K, it's also scalable to 8K in the future. To be able to take into account any variations in switching speed between vendors, because some vendors are faster than the others. So I don't want to say, I don't want to discuss publicly, but I mean, some switches are slightly faster than others, and then there is some variations in latency. Then we have the capabilities to buffer and create and to buffer any latencies or discrepancies in latency between the different streams up to 1 frame, from about 1/4 frame up to 1 frame. And we guarantee perfect synchronization after that. It could be earlier, but worst case could be up to 1 frame of latency. All right, then just to summarize, I take the streams, convert them into IP packet. The operator talks to the live system manager, issue a command. The command talks to the IP switch. I create the IGMP messages. The IP switch starts switching. Okay, and we have this little overlap and discard the unnecessary packet, and I create my clean video switching. Therefore, using this technology, or this method, we are able to completely mimic the operations of an SDI router, conventional router, but using conventional IP switches. Okay. Another problem that we encounter is one of network redundancy. You may know that today's IP infrastructure, especially point-to-point, we have the audio-video stream, and then we have an IP switch, and usually we have 2 backup switches. Okay? Therefore, you monitor the good operation of one of the IP switches. If you detect a failure, then you switch the source to the backup network. But that technology doesn't work for broadcasting, because by the time you realize there is a problem and you switch the streams, the signal is already destroyed. You see a hit in the video. Therefore, the video gets interrupted temporarily while switching. What we have done is that this LSI device outputs constantly 2 streams of identical streams, feeding 2 identical network paths of IP switches. Then the LSM is constantly monitoring each and every one of the ports and outputs of the IP fabric. If there is even a single IP packet distorted, it switches instantly to the other network. Therefore, we can switch on an IP packet by packet, and you never know that there is a distortion in the video. Then what the LSM, or the system manager, does is just take note that that port is faulty, so that you can replace the network when you get a chance. This is called hitless failover, has been stated or standardized by SMPTE, and I'll get to that in a minute. All right, speaking of standardization, there are a lot of people involved in standardization, perhaps too many. And SMPTE was originally doing this, and then we have the Video Services Forum, and then some people say, well, let's put some order here, and then we created a joint task force on network media to try to get to a single flavor. But it's very, very difficult to make all of the vendors and all of the people that own different intellectual properties to coalesce into a single methodology. Then this process has produced something called the SMPTE 2022 family of standards. But before I show you that, just let me show you briefly, this is what you have to do to create a single datagram. And you have your video packets, and audio as well, and you have your number of bytes that you can allocate to an IP packet, and then you wrap that thing into a real-time protocol header, and then on top of that you add your UDP, and then your IP header, and eventually you go into your layer 2. Therefore, these layers are very important, because when you talk to a manufacturer, you say, well, are you compliant with layer 2, layer 3? Certain technologies will not do layer 3. Some technologies will not do layer 3. Therefore, it's important that the end user knows the capability of a given offer in IP switching. All right, these are the 7 so far standardized by SMPTE. This is the 2022 layer standard. The 2022-1 began, I think, about 6-7 years ago, and this was basically a forward error correction that will encapsulate or will protect a unidirectional transport of constant bitrate MP2. Therefore, it was point-to-point, London to Toronto. Point-to-point communication, unidirectional, using MP2 compressed streams and protected by the FEC. There are some manufacturers in earlier implementations. Then there were different versions, version -3, -4, trying to do variable bit rate, piecewise constant variable bit rate. And about 3 years ago, we decided, well, let's get away from MP compression, and we're going to do uncompressed packetization of an HD SDI signal. Therefore, you have an HD SDI signal, you packetize it on IP, and you will send it on IP streams. That was 2022-6. Then it's a point-to-point IP transmission with package mapping for uncompressed. It doesn't accept compression, and it doesn't accept 4K. It's only for HD. All right. Then to protect 2022-6, we had to create an FEC. Then -5 is the forward error correction that was designed to protect 2022-6. And -7 is the hitless failover that I just discussed. All right. This is, of course, it's Sony's views, but we found some problems. Some of the problems is when you use 2022-6, you are actually mapping the entire HD SDI into a single IP stream. Therefore, and also you cannot use video compression, and it's not scalable to 4K. That's all the problems. But the issue is that all of the essences, video, audio, metadata, are all integrated in a bunch of IP packets. Therefore, if you wanted to do some audio editing or manipulation of any of the video, metadata, audio, you have to go back. You have to demultiplex. You have to go from IP to baseband, or not baseband, but to PCM. And then at that moment, begin your audio operation or your video manipulation. It was not essence independent packetization. That was a big problem for us. And the other one is that the forward error correction, I'm going to show you now, unfortunately didn't take into account the existence of the framing, the vertical blanking, the vertical interval. And there was a chance that when you switch using the FEC, you will break the FEC and destroy the data. Then Sony has proposed, and other vendors have also used similar technique, to use separate mapping, separate audio, separate video, separate metadata packaging. We call it separate datagrams, okay? Both for uncompressed as well as for compressed, for HD as well as for 4K. Then let me show you step by step the problem with the -5. Okay, these are the specification of the FEC that is in -5, and it collects 4 blocks of IP packets. Then it could happen that the forward error correction will land between the ending of one frame and the beginning of the next frame. If you were to switch at that point, you will destroy the forward error correction information to restore or reconstruct the missing packets. Therefore, Sony is introducing the idea of a frame boundary aware. The forward error correction will end itself at the end of a given frame and will begin again from scratch at the beginning of the next frame. So that when you switch, you can do a clean switching without destroying the forward error correction. That is now in our chip. Now, this is the other one. This is 2022-6. As I said, as it exists today, it takes all of the payload of an HD SDI and puts a header, and there you go. It's a single multicast. but we need to have flexibility to do packets for video, packets for audio, and packets for metadata. Sony is implementing this data-independent packaging in a single multicast. Therefore, it's several datagrams independent, but over a single multicast. Because I need to have a single multicast to go through my IP fabric. All right. Now, this is what we implement. But it happens that because 2022.6 is a few years old, there are a number of manufacturers that now have products in the street that use 2022.6. It's switchable. By itself, .6, you can switch. There's no problem. The only problem is when you put the FEC on top. But if you're not running FECs, you can switch to .6. The only issue that we have is that you have to unbundle the payload and then separate videos and the different audio. But because there are products in the market, especially in Europe, that employ .6, Sony has been, we decided to create a gateway to convert from .6 to the protocol that we have. And this is a graphic description of what I'm talking about in terms of .6. On the signal on top, you see this is the HDFDI. Okay, and then this is the .6 encapsulation, and then this is the one multicast IP stream, which has to be unbundled in order to reach, for example, each one of the audio packages. We use, the name that we use for our technology is called NMI, Network Media Interface. Okay? And it's inside Sony's IP Live system. And our cameras, servers, switches, we are now currently implementing NMIs in all of our products. But for example, there are graphic generators, different vendors that have now a .6, 2022.6 feeds. Then we have designed a gateway that will take .6 to NMI or NMI to .6 so that we can create a conversion gateway. Very, very fast. There's no latency, almost no latency introduced, but it's a gateway. It's a card that goes in a frame. And we demonstrated this at the show at IBC a few weeks ago. All right, then when comparing NMI with the technologies of 2022, 5, 6, and 7, here there are some of the features in terms of media, how to handle media, how to handle timing and control. And NMI is a very, very strong technology. It solves a lot of the problems that we see exist today in .6 and also with .5 and 7. Then, this is the reason why we are using this technology to move into HD and 4K. There is another very, very important vendor and colleague. We have a very strong cooperation with Evertz. Evertz is one of, if not the first company that developed the use of IP routing, and they have very robust products in the market, and they are very popular. Therefore, end users that happen to have Evertz routers and control surfaces, but are buying Sony equipment, we need to have a way of interoperating the two companies. And we have a very healthy and very strong technology dialogue at this moment. The technology that Evertz uses is called Aspen. And Aspen is basically the use of several multicasts. And they use an MP2 transfer stream encapsulation. But one for videos, one for audios, and multiple audios, maybe multiple audios per group for transfer stream, and one for metadata. This approach is very sensible because for them, because at the time they recognize the difficulty of using commercial off-the-shelf switches, and they design their own internal switches. Therefore, if it is bad enough to switch one single multicast, imagine to have to switch multiple multicast. Therefore, by removing the intelligence of the switching fabric, which is what they have done, and just synchronizing that switching process, it works beautifully for them. Therefore, what we have been discussing is how to interoperate an Aspen multicast with a single multicast of NMI. Okay? And we announced at IBC that we're going to support Aspen. Therefore, all of our products internally are based on NMI, network media interface. And what we do is basically flip the several multicast into several datagrams as we go into our devices, into our switching video switcher, and vice versa. When we output our video from our video switcher to their video monitor wall, we will flip NMI to Aspen. Therefore, it's an internal gateway that we are now very happy to support. And also, but this is exclusively for uncompressed HD. Okay, and we have provided Evertz as part of this technology exchange with knowledge about LLVC, low latency video coding. And Evertz now is working on capabilities to support 4K using LLVC, so that the 4K streams going through their fabrics can go into our devices. All right, we have contributed, as I said, there's a white paper in the SMPTE journal that discusses a lot of what I have said tonight. We have the famous 2059 standard, and then the RDD is now available, the RDD 34 that describes in detail the low latency video codec. We have announced at NAB as well as at IBC our first product. The Live System Manager is a product because setups the complete matrix configuration of the cross-point switching. We have a signal processing frame where we're going to put cards that will do a signal conversion from SDI to IP, as well as audio conversion and other gateways. And we have the SDI to IP converter board. These are now commercially available. Then again, you can read, I'm not going to go through all of this, but this is some of the attributes of the Live System Manager. Basically, it's a redundant configuration. We have to protect the intelligence of the system. And it creates all of the routing configuration and behavior that we expect from, as if we were handling an SDI router, and naming, level, status, tally. It does system maintenance and checking of all of the devices in the network. And also is the intelligence that allows us to receive control commands from other control surfaces from other vendors. Okay? Then this is the signal processing unit that basically accepts 9 cards. And these are the first cards that we are selling. One is an SDI to IP converters that can work both in HD and 4K. Notice always we have 2 spigots, IP. These are all bidirectional. Then one is the main and the other one is the backup. Okay? These are SFP plus connectors, main and backup. In the area of audio, we are developing an audio card. We show some prototypes at IBC based on to support fully AES-67, which is the standard for audio over IP, and also we support the Dante formats, therefore, which are very similar to AES-67. All right, well, this is our ecosystem, from sources to destinations, and emphasizing the use of commercial switches as much as possible. And we're working very closely with Evertz in terms of interoperability. And these are the 3 products that we officially launched at the IBC. We were showing them in prototype format at NAB. As you know, we have a very famous camera now called the HTC 4300. It's the only 4K camera in the industry at this moment. True 4K camera, I should say. That has a baseband processing unit. And this new model, the BPU 4500, has the option capability of ordering with IP interfaces. We also have a server that allows us to have a high frame rate, the PWS 4500. Also, you can order the server using IP interfaces. And what really caught a lot of people's attention is this is the first video switcher in the industry. This is the XPS 8000X that can be ordered with BNC connectors or with IP connectors, or you mix and match. You can have some of them will be IP, the other one will be BNC. I'm going to show you the architecture in a minute. But just to demonstrate that our emphasis in partnership and demonstrating that this is real, we've done a lot of proof of concept during the last 6 months. This was we've done with these vendors using commercial switches, both HD and uncompressed and 4K using low latency video coding. Okay? And again, a third vendor, control surfaces, will talk to the Sony live system manager to control the switch. Therefore, the operator really doesn't know that it's switching an IP fabric. It's just controlling the familiar surface that they are familiar with. Right now in Europe, we have a system running of 100 by 100 HD uncompressed using both edge and core, both Juniper and Cisco routers. We have it running constantly just to make sure that all the boxes are out, and we have many customers that are coming to visit the facility. We did a proof of concept with imaging so that for a specific customer. Then basically a lot of the hardware is Sony. We use commercial Cisco switches, but the control surface and user interface is all from imaging. We also have a proof of concept that works very well with Evertz, where now the Matten control surface talks to both the Evertz switching fabric as well as the LSM. And it has to be this way because LSM controls all of the Sony peripheral devices. But it works clean. We also done, but this was more experimental. This was at NAB a year ago. What we actually passed NMI streams completely through the Evertz fabric. But we had to have our own decoding devices at the other end. But it proved that you can send blind data through the Evertz environment perfectly. All right, we are very proud of this device, and we'll be shipping this at the beginning of the end of this year, at the beginning of next. This is a new series of video switchers that happen to use this very fancy control surface. This control surface control panel, has been available for a year now, and it can also be used with existing Sony switches. But what is important is this new processor. This new processor, and these are photos from the NAB. This processor, this is a large processor. The large processor, this can handle up to 160 HD inputs or 40 4K inputs. And each one of these slots is an I/O card. And notice, my little, notice these are the 4 NMI chips, and each one of these I/O cards have these SFP plus connectors, main, backup, main, backup. Therefore, this card can support 16 HDs or 4 4Ks. And you can order the cards with either SFPs or with BNCs, and you can switch. Every port can be either one. Okay? This is important from an architectural viewpoint. And our goal, we think that as we move into IP, eventually we will only be able, to sell you only intelligence in switching, the signal processing, but we would like to replace the SDI router and the switching matrix by conventional IP fabric. Therefore, a single intelligence will have unlimited amount of inputs and outputs. This is what we would like to do. This is the future, where we have an IP routing matrix and only the MEs and the special effects and the frame memory will be talking to the IP router. But to get there, and from here, today we have an SDI router matrix, we have an input matrix, we have re-entry. Well, before I get there, I'm going to go midway through that process. I'm going to have an IP router, but I will also have an SDI router. That's why we can order the boards, either with BNCs or with SSPs. But internally, we will convert from NMI to SDI. This is why we need a super, super fast, low latency decompression and compression algorithm. Therefore, I can accept actually anything. I can bring Aspen and convert them to NMI and NMI back to baseband to do my special effects. But this has to be done in an NMI environment. Therefore, the interfaces to outside other format will have to be done in the I/O cards. All right. Basically, in 4K it's a 5ME switcher. In HD it's actually a 10ME switcher. We have frame memories, all the stuff that you usually expect to have from state-of-the-art video switchers. And we announced a number of people, a number of companies that have adopted our technology. Some more, some less. Some are building FPGA versions of our chip. Some are buying the chips. Matrix is building I/O cards and interface cards using our devices. And we have healthy technical exchange with many other companies. But we have about 36 companies today. Therefore, whenever we have to interoperate with other companies, that we have differences in interfaces, we'll try to establish a healthy technical dialogue to achieve an interoperable solution, because at the end, it's the customer and the business what counts. We have to make sure the ecosystem works. And we continue to pay a lot of attention to the standardization community, and we're going to renew our efforts to introduce NMI in this forum so that we get more standards. Anyway, just to conclude this portion, we now have viable, commercially available products that use genetic Ethernet switches. We're using emerging standard, or trying to modify the standard that needs some modification. We are cooperating in the creation of other standards. And this is the beginning of a new era. Thank you very much.